This series of videos will consist of several modules. We will give a brief introduction of Cisco's packet tracer application, a network emulation software, and use it to give a demonstration of how to perform basic router configuration. At this time, locate and double-click the packet tracer desktop icon. The workspace appears. Observing the lower left-hand corner of the screen, this is your toolbox. This is used for adding routers, switches, cables, and end devices such as PCs, servers, and printers to our network. The default toolbox displayed shows routers. This is the top left icon. The type of router used in this tutorial will be the 2811 series. So we click on routers, click on a 2811, and drop it on the desktop. The next icon over is switches. This displays the types of switches that Packet Tracer supports. We will be using a 2960 switch. Drag one of those to the desktop. The lower left icon is end devices, PCs, laptops, servers, printers, and other associated devices that users would use for our networks. We're going to grab onto a PC and drag it on the desktop. The lightning bolt symbol there is our connections, our cable connections. The connections we will be using for this demonstration are the console cable, used to connect the RS-232 port of a PC to the console port of a router or a switch for programming with such a program as PuTTY or HyperTerminal. A copper straight-through connects end devices such as a PC, a server, a printer to a switch, and a switch to a router. A copper crossover cable is used for connecting two like items together, such as a PC to a PC, a switch to a switch, etc. The serial DCE cable is connected to the serial link of a router that is providing timing for that link. The DCE end is by default the first end of the cable, so that end must be connected first to the end of the link that is providing timing. At this time, we select the console cable, mouse over the PC, click the PC. It comes up with two choices, RS-232 and Fast Ethernet. This type of cable can only be connected to the RS-232 port. As you mouse it over and move up to the router, you click on the router, you can connect to the console port. Click on the router icon, it opens up. Expand the window here. We have the physical tab, which lists all of our modules that can go into these open bays on the modular router. I'm going to click zoom in for a better picture. We also have a config tab and the CLI tab, which we will not be using for this exercise. This top portion shows the rear of the router. We have bay 0 and bay 1. Bay 0 is divided into 4 separate slots where most of these modules will be able to fit into. We have a power switch on the front portion of it. The green indicator there indicates that the power is on. If I were to try and select and drag a module into the router, it would tell me, cannot add a module while the device is powered on. You click OK, and you turn off the router. We will be adding a WIC2T, which stands for WAN Interface Card, 2 terminals. And the 2 terminals are serial 0 and serial 1, 2 serial ports. And we drop that into slot 0. This is for our WAN interface. We turn the router back on, close the window, and it boots back up. Meanwhile, on the PC, we click on the PC. We have a physical tab, config tab, desktop, and software services. We will select the desktop tab and the terminal icon. The terminal configuration window comes up in its default state of 9600 bits per second, 8 data bits, no parity, stop bits 1, flow control none. These are the default settings, but these are the settings you would need to make sure you set up on a real switch and a real router for the PC to be able to talk to them. At this point in time, the router has already gone through its boot process and extracted its iOS. It has come up with a prompt that says configure with configuration dialog, yes or no. We type no, press enter. It says press return to get started. We press return. The router is at its most basic user prompt. This is fresh out of the box. This is called the user executive mode. Your capabilities are very limited in this mode. For a list of commands, type the question mark. You don't even have to hit enter, you just hit the question mark and it lists all the commands that are part of the user exec mode. The command that we're looking for is the enable command. It turns on our privileged commands or privileged exec mode. To get into the privileged exec mode, we type in either enable or just EN for short and hit enter. Notice that the router's prompt changes to router pound sign. Now we are in the privileged exec mode. We hit the question mark again. We got a lot more commands listed. Down here where it says more, if you just hit enter, it goes one line at a time. If you hit the space bar, it goes a page at a time. We're going to scroll back up, and the command we're looking for is the configure command. We are going to configure this router. So we must go in and we type in conf config T for terminal, and we hit enter. Now it says enter configuration commands, one per line, end with Control/Z, but you don't type Control/Z. You just press and hold the Control key and the Z key on the keyboard, and it exits you all the way out of the configuration mode back to the privileged exec mode. Now we are ready to begin basic configuration of the router. First, we will assign our router a host name. You assign a host name to a router so that you will be able to identify this router in a network if you were going to remotely connect into it via telnet. Because a lot of times you are not going to be physically at that router, and you want to be able to make sure you're in the correct router. So we type in the command hostname followed by the name of the router, and we're going to call this one R0 for router 0, and we hit enter. Notice that the prompt changed. The router's name is now R0 instead of router. We must now apply some passwords for security to our router. We have to put a console password, enable password, and secure our telnet ports, our virtual terminals, for access to from remote locations. So we will start out by doing the enable password. Type enable password, and whatever follows is going to be your password, and we're going to use the password of just Cisco. Right now, our password to go from the user exec mode to the privileged exec mode is now Cisco. This is not a scrambled or encrypted password. If we wanted to encrypt it, we would type in enable secret Cisco, and then it would be encrypted. It would not show up in plain text. We also want to secure our console port, and that console port is a physical line that is connected to the router. So we go line, we're going to interface a line, console 0. That's our first and only console port we have. We type in password, and we're going to use Cisco again, just to keep it simple. And the router's going to say, well, what do you want to do with this password? It's for login. Not like that, it's not. Log in. Enter. Now, whenever somebody goes to attempt to log in, it will prompt them for the password. We type in now, line VTY, virtual terminals, 0 through 4, and we're going to do the same thing. I want to type in password Cisco and then log in. Do I want to do all that typing? No. I can either use Control P or the up arrow and go up 3 times to password Cisco, hit enter, and I want to apply it as a login. 3 times again, boom. Now we're going to exit out of this, because exit takes us back one configuration prompt, back to the config. If I would have hit Control Z, I would have backed all the way out to the privileged exec mode. Now we must enter a banner, a message of the day banner. Okay, so we type in banner, 2 N's, MOTD for message of the day, and what follows next is going to be a delimiting character telling the router that, hey, when you see this character, whatever it may be, it's going to be the end of my banner. A lot of people would use the pound sign or a dollar sign or something like that, any type of special character usually. The problem with using the pound sign is if you had a banner that says, hey, call the IT help desk at extension whatever, usually that number's a pound sign and the extension like 269. And as soon as you type that pound sign, the router would never put in the number 269. You typed it in, but the router wouldn't see it. So I use the caret, which is a capital 6, a shift 6, gives you that character right there. A banner must consist of a warning, like for official use only, no trespassing, whatever you want to put in there, any planned network outages, and the date that that banner was created. So we're going to type in our official warning here. Can't type today. Official use only. And then we say no planned outages, no planned network outages. And I double it up by saying for today, and today happens to be the last day of February of a leap year, 2012. And now we end it with that special character, and that's it. Anything I type after this will not be part of that banner, just to show and prove a point. We'll get out in there and check the banner after we do all of our configurations. Notice I put in all the alphabet soup after that. If we want to log out, well, let's check that right now. We'll go Control-Z, and then we'll type exit and get out of the router. Now it says console 0 is now available. We are connected to console. Press return to get started. Here is my banner right here. For official use only, no planned network outages for today, 29 February 2012, and all the gibberish is not behind it. User access verification. This is our console password, and if you remember, it is Cisco. Now we are at the user exec mode. I want to go enable. It's going to challenge me for a password again. Cisco again. Now we're at the privileged exec mode. We're going to go back in and go configure T, and we're going to go back and continue on where we left off. Finally, the last thing we need to do to make our router operational in our network is have at least one up interface. That means an IP address assigned to an interface to make it networkable. So we're going to assign two. We're going to assign one to our fast Ethernet that will support our LAN that we will build on at the end of this exercise, and we'll assign one to the serial port, which we will use in our upcoming exercise. So now I want to interface the fast Ethernet port that I'm going to connect my LAN to. So I type in interface fast Ethernet 0/0, because I have two of them, 0/0 and 0/1. We're going to add an IP address to this interface. So we go IP add for IP address 148.10.10.1 and the subnet mask of 255.255.255.248. Enter. By default, all ports on the router are shut down. So we must open those ports up for communication, and we do that by typing no shut. Notice that it says link 5 changed interface fast Ethernet 0/0 changed to up. This interface is now up, operational, ready to pass traffic. We're now going to jump over and assign an IP address to our serial interface. So we go INT serial 0/0/0. What that is serial interface bay 0 slot 0 interface. The actual serial 0 interface. The other interface would be serial 001. Okay. We're going to do an IP add there. 148.20.20.2 with a subnet mask. For a backbone, is going to be 255.255.255.252, because with a serial backbone, you only need 4 addresses. We also need to enter a clock rate on this router or the other router that we'll put up there. So we're going to put it in on this one. So we're going to go clock space rate, and we're going to go 64,000. That's a nice even number for this. We should also put a description on all of our ports. I haven't put one on the fast Ethernet 0 as yet, but I will go back and do that just to make sure it's done. So we type in DESC space, and then we're going to go to R1 network, to the R1 network. Just all it needs, just a little breadcrumb trail to tell you what it's going to. Okay. And then we also tell it no shutdown to bring the port up. Notice it's going to say the interface 0/0 change state to down. That's because it's like a guy standing out there waiting on someone to shake his hand. He's got his hand out there waiting, but until the other guy comes up, puts his hand up there, the status is not going to be changed to up. Okay? So now we're going to go back and we're going to interface fast Ethernet 0/0 and put a description there. Supports LAN with 6 hosts. I didn't type LAN very well. Let's go back and fix that. Like so. Now we're going to exit out of this, and we're going to go show run. Enter. Show our running configuration. Notice the enable password is right there in the clear, plain text. We hit the space bar. It goes down and says interface fast Ethernet 0/0. Description supports a LAN with 6 hosts. It's got the IP address, the subnet mask, and notice it does not say shut down, so you know that interface is up. Fast Ethernet 01 is still shut down. Hit the space bar. There's our serial 0/0. Description to the R1 network. IP address 148.20.20.2 with a 255.255.255.252 mask. A clock rate of 64,000, and it is not shut down either. Come down here, we see our banner, message of the day. Down here we see our console password and our virtual terminal password. At this point in time, we're happy with our running configuration. We want to copy our running configuration to our startup configuration. So if we power down the router and come back up, it's going to have everything we just put in there in place. Hit enter and enter again, and it's done. Cabling up our devices. We will select a copper straight through cable, move over to the router. Notice when the yellow box comes up, it shows our IP addresses assigned to our ports. We will connect up to fast Ethernet 00 and then come down to the switch. I'm going to select a port 24 on the switch. That will come up later. Notice the icon goes green on the router because that interface is up already. The switch has got to negotiate and figure it out. We're going to select another copper straight through cable, connect up to a port on the switch, come down to the PC, and cable up to the PC. We need to add an IP address to the PC because if you see it has no IP address and no gateway set. We must do that at this time. On the desktop tab, when you open it up, because that's where we were left off, we click on the IP configuration and we click on the IP address 148.10.10.3 because we're saving the .2 for the switch. Hit the tab key, hit the end button, that way you don't have to do any more typing, 255.248. Now the default gateway, this is the address of that router, 148.10.10.1. We're not going to worry about a DNS server at this point in time. Close that. By this time, the link should be green, so now we want to be able to actually go over to the router or the PC and ping that router, 148.10.10.1. And we're getting a reply. This concludes this module.